So, first off, I wanted to say massive congratulations on season three. It has been truly delightful watching all of this come to life in a visual medium. And I kind of wanted to hone in on episode four, The Road to the Spear, if that was all right with you.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so I think this is going to be one of those episodes that stick with people for a very long time. And I kind of wanted to go back into its infancy when it's just, words on a script and you picking that up as a director and off the cuff thinking, wow, like the scope of this is massive. Where do we begin? And what your direction was from that just there in the very beginning.
Um, I was um, I was pretty daunted by it. I won't lie to you. I felt kind of somewhat overwhelmed by the scope of it. But I also really got excited by the challenge of creating so much stuff for the show that was, unseen. Um, Road to the Spear is sort of exists in this kind of parallel space to the show. It kind of, it's a big introduction to the Aiel, and we meet the Shido for the first time. We're in deep into Aiel culture as they travel to Ruidian. So I loved the fact that Rafe and I got to do a lot of the kind of casting together for the Aiel, and this kind of Nordic Celtic fusion of casting. So we spent a lot of time working on finding those actors that would be Bear and Amis and Mullane, and it was just a kind of amazing feeling to be kind of putting so much new stuff into the show, I think. Um, and then yeah, the visions and the journey that Rand goes on. We just started really early with Yosha, kind of sat with Yosha talking about the characters, and I brought in Davina Lamont and Sharon Gillam really early into those conversations. So we would talk about um, we just should openly share about these characters that we were going to meet and how we might express um, their difference and things we might do to kind of age Yosha in different ways or to make him feel um, younger or to make him feel Age of Legends and to, just
Yeah.
kind of talking about characters very early on with Yosha. So um, that was really the first stage. And then my office became like a kind of murder crime scene with hundreds, all the script up on the wall. So Rafe's beautiful script up on the wall, all down the wall, and then just starting to patchwork all of the visuals together. So influences like things that I felt might influence Ruidian, or how to make Ruidian feel enormous, even though we didn't really have a set for it. We didn't have
Yeah.
a Ruidian set. We had to build that with smoke and then shapes in the smoke. So it was sort of quite a challenge to work out how to build a city without necessarily having that city. Um, and so we kind of did lots of testing. We were testing smoke and we were testing shapes in the smoke and sculptures in the smoke, and then trying to make the columns feel as they are in the book. They've got light coming from within inside them, and they're these very straight kind of columns of glass that seem to go on infinitely. Like, how are we going to do that, and what textures they should have? So it gets very granular. You get very kind of detailed, thinking about how to make the elements work. Um, and then piece by piece, you start putting together your crime scene in your office, and people would come into my office and they're like, "Oh my god, Jesus!" You know, how many characters is Yasha playing? It's like I think it might be seven, but it could be nine. You know, we initially wanted to play two more. There were two more characters that didn't make it. We just couldn't fit them in. You know, budget wise, and you know, we're asking everyone to kind of create seven separate
Yeah.
worlds for these characters that all of which just appear for 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe Lewin is a bit longer. Lewin is maybe the longest of them, but they're all characters that will never appear again. So there was a lot of casting, a lot of looking for the right characters that would fit into the world as we go back through time. You know, so it was a it. You could see it on the page when you first read it, but then as we unpacked it, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Um,
The
and
scope and the scale is just massive in this episode, and it's really just wonderful watching that all play out. Being someone who, loves the show and loves the books as well, it truly comes to life. I
I'm
wanted
so
to,
glad you say that. I'm so
yeah.
glad you say that. When I was making it, I was sort of worried that people just wouldn't understand what was going on because Yoshua is going forward, time is going backwards, but when time goes backwards in the wheel of time, it's going forwards,
Yeah,
and you know, it's like it's quite a conundrum storytelling wise to kind of to convey that. But I think you know, I think it works. I'm sure people will have questions when they've watched it, but I
but
love the
that
fact
makes
that
it so much better to watch over and over again
right,
as all those details, in the minds of the viewer when it all becomes like realized there it's like a massive aha moment.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, totally.
yeah. So
I never really had that moment while I was making it because I was just stressed about different aspects of making. I'd never had an aha moment. I've got this, but when we got it into the edit and working with Chris Barwell, the editor, I watched the sort of first assembly back here in London, and I was like, okay, okay, that's it. Kind of tracks. It tracks. It obviously needed a whole load more work done to it to kind of to get it to where it what it's where it's got to now. But it, it's just I love watching Yosha's transformations into the characters. I feel like he's just smashed it, and he's really kind of inhabited the characters and really found emotional landscapes
yeah.
within each of those characters, which you know some of it was on the page, but in some places he's found you know this whole character for himself in a very
Okay.
short period of time, and so I think
Yeah.
he's done an amazing job.
I agree. I just wanted to thank you for your time, and truly it was an honor. So thank you so much and
Ah, no, thank you,
congratulations.
thank you. I'm so glad you liked it. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay.